from the FTC's perspective is that this is a self-inflicted wound when it comes to the agreement, and it kind of reduces the effectiveness of our ability to speak with a strong voice when we argue exactly the opposite to other countries about policy space, and they're against the reluctance to take commitments on similar issues. But there we are. So I think one important component of the digital economy is fulfilling those orders and the physical commerce that goes along with all the things that you can do on the internet. And so I want to turn over to Ralph Carter, who's Managing Director for Legal, Trade, and International Affairs at FedEx, for your perspective.
Thanks, Jake. Happy to be here today. I'm going to be brief and practical. I want to start with a story. Ambassador Hallman talked about what it was like 20 years ago. It reminded me of a time 19 years ago this week, sitting in the living room with my grandfather watching the Masters. He was 93 at the time. This was the Masters that Tiger Woods won by 18 strokes. You know, Jim Nance was there doing his very hushed tones, and he came on and he said, you can learn more about the Masters if you go on to CBSSports.com. My grandfather looks over at me and he says, what is that .com thing he's talking about? And I said, well, let's look and see. And so I get out my laptop and I do a dial-up connection, find the website, and we look through a couple of pages, and he looks at it, he kind of looks back at me and he says, I think I'd rather watch it on the TV. And I agreed with him. A lot of things have changed, though, about the web in those 19 years. A lot of things have changed about Tiger's game, too. Weirdly, not much has changed with Jim Nance. He seems to have not aged, still doing it. But I'm here really as a kind of representing a non-tech company, but don't tell Fred Smith that, our founder and chairman, because he very much believes we are a technology company, and he is famous for saying that the information about the package is just as important as the package itself. And so we've always viewed ourselves as a technology company. And going back to 97, if you even go back 3 years earlier in 94, one of the first things you could do on the internet in an interactive fashion was to track your FedEx package. You may not remember back that far. We were one of the pioneers in using the internet to enable our customers to track packages. We were certainly the first logistics company to do that. We think we were one of the first companies to have that kind of interactive relationship with our customers, and we've been building on that ever since. So I'm going to talk about not really the TPP, but how data impacts our business and how we use data, and of course why TPP is so important to protect that. And I'll stick with the theme and stay on three themes. One is operational. We operate in 220 countries and territories around the world. So we're literally dealing with data in 220 countries around the world. A FedEx package, as soon as it comes into our system, we put a barcode on it, and we generate a data set right then. The customer, the shipper, the consignee, the destination, the address, the description of the goods, and that data set has to travel with that package around the world or the package doesn't move. And we constantly update that data set as the package moves around the world. Typical international shipment may go through 4 different countries. So we may be dealing with 4 different regulatory regimes in terms of transmitting data. And a typical shipment will have anywhere from 11 to 14 scans where people along our network are scanning that barcode and taking that information and updating it into our servers so that the customer knows with a click of a button where exactly that package is. And it happens around the world. Any customer has access to the internet can do that. So it's incredibly important to our business, and it's incredibly important to our customers. The second aspect that is really important to FedEx is, and this has been touched on, the advent of global value chains and global supply chains, and the importance of being able to communicate and transmit data around the world to knit those supply chains and value chains together. When you look at value chains, the phones that we all have, we all know now the story that they're made in multiple countries. And all of that production and IT and research and marketing and all of that is tied together through the use of data and the ability to communicate with suppliers around the world. And of course, that phenomenon, the dispersed production process, has been a huge benefit to FedEx because we are the ones that are carrying those parts around the world, and we benefit greatly from that process, and of course we also enable that process. The second piece within the supply chain is the supply chain moving of the goods and the increased visibility that customers and shippers now have into their supply chains because of the technology and the ability to transmit from anywhere in the world. The shipping manager knows exactly what's coming and when it's coming and whether it's delayed. And that has meant fundamental changes in the way companies organize their supply chains. More predictability, more transparency has meant more efficiency in our supply chains. You can have more inventory or less inventory depending on what you need and what suits your business. But it's had profound impacts on the way business is done. And it's one of the reasons that the United States economy and our logistics are so effective and so efficient. It's only 9% of GDP, and that compares to, say, 18% in China. So we've had enormous benefits because of all these efficiencies that data has driven through the supply chain. So the third big piece of why it's so important to us has been touched on, and that's e-commerce. The ability of a customer, a person around the world to do a Google or a Bing search and find an item that they're interested in buying anywhere in the world. And that is driving incredible amounts of new business. On the other side, it's driving incredible amounts of opportunities for small businesses, micro multinationals that we call them, to do business with anyone in the world. I have a great slide that I show a lot of times. It shows someone with a backyard sale and has got an old fan. They've got it for sale for $5. Next to that is the exact same fan on eBay, and the last auction price or bid price was $50. That's the power of getting millions of views on your goods rather than just the few people that can walk in front of your store. So it's a phenomenal opportunity, and the principles in the TPP that enable the internet, open internet, access to these websites and the technologies, the flow of the data, the infrastructure that Jackie talked about is incredibly important to our business and to our customers. And that's why we're strong supporters.